Back at Elmley, you're going to have to start calling this the weekly Elmley update. Just keep coming back here. It's just been so quiet elsewhere, all my local spots, there's nothing much going on. And you come here and you get, 40 to 60 species, no problem. Had a cracking start. The Kingsferry Bridge was closed, so I had to come over the bridge and come back down the path. And that's great because it means there's no traffic really going along that main road outside of the reserve. So I can look for the buzzards, and sure enough, I spotted the pale light morph buzzard hanging on a post, got some photos off, stayed in the car, it wasn't too, and it did fly away eventually. And then, as I turned into the road for the reserve, out the corner of my eye, you could have easily mistaken it for some sort of brown scrub. There was a darker buzzard on the ground, which I couldn't quite see what it was. It looked like a rabbit of some type. I imagine, got to keep my ears open. That sounded like a peregrine or something, or a hobby. Yeah, you got to keep your. I couldn't tell if it was a rabbit. I think it was a rabbit because it did take off, and I think what happens is the rabbit didn't take off. The rabbit was dead. The buzzard eventually took off the rabbit, but it did let me take loads of footage, and this footage is from 800 millimeters. So I sort of quickly got some with the engine running. I thought I'll edit it out later. And then when I thought, right, I've got enough now, I'll put the window up, rested on the window, turn the engine off, turn my radio off, and get some footage where I don't have to edit the sound out, and I can just use the sound from the surroundings. And it's sort of, I wanted it to start eating, but I think it spotted me even from that distance and was like, I'm just going to keep an eye on you. And I took pictures and video. It kind of turned its head left, right, looked down at the food a couple of times, and then eventually flew off and wouldn't eat the rabbit with me filming it. And I imagine it goes for these. I always wondered how the bigger birds catch rabbits, and I imagine it's probably a sick rabbit. The ones that have got is it the conjunctivitis? What's the term? What's the one that I know that's humans? What's the things that rabbits have in their eyes that when you see some of them, sometimes they're closed and they're blind and they're out feeding? You tell me. Leave that in the comments. I'm not going to look this stuff up because it means interactions with my followers and my viewers. So yeah, tell me where that is. But anyway, yeah, and we had a kestrel already on one of the telephone power cables, and then when I got down to the road down to the gun club, there was a kestrel here fluffed up. I couldn't quite focus on it, and then I fiddling around, I found out that the heat haze, even though it's quite cloudy, was quite strong. It was being harassed by, I think it was a crow and not a rook, and it was just, it wasn't much bothered. A crow was dive bombing it a couple of times, and it kind of just sat there fluffed up, not worried. Anyway, yeah, that's an amazing first start. I can see raptors in the distance in the reserve, so let's get in there and start getting some more stuff. So it's probably the quietest I've heard the track for a long time. I literally heard nothing. All I saw was some starlings around the cattle. But there's a lot of raptor action, buzzards particularly. They've got the hay bales out on the field just before the farm and the tree line, and lots of buzzards circling. I had to sort of switch to manual to get some video of one flying above me. It would have just been a silhouette. But to see them landed on the hay bales, Hell's bells, AC/DC. I can't get it right now. Hay bales. Yeah, buzzards landing on them. I don't know if they're waiting for something to run out from underneath and catch it. But I remember the first year I came here, I know every time the bales came out, I did notice more raptor activity in the area. So maybe it does attract more rodents. I don't know. Somebody will probably watch this and go, well, you're talking nonsense. Anyway, barn owl's been spotted going down to Brickfield, so fingers crossed for that. Down at the front, usual goldfinch. So just before I came in, I got some goldfinch and juvenile. And I'll video anything unusual I see. I thought, well, did I just see that right? There was a sheep inside one of those concrete bits of tunneling, and keeping out of the sun, I guess. I'm sure before I started recording, I'm sure I saw it licking so maybe there's some salt inside, maybe moss or salt. So I'm sure I saw it licking that. Anyway, you can hear how quiet it is. But in the distance, I can see dotted raptors. And apparently the Welmarsh hide has got some good action down there. Apparently rough, snipe already. So let's get down there because not much happening here. That's good. I kind of like when there's nothing much happening on the track, because what happens is you get trapped in, should I be at the hide? Should I be at the front? Should I be down at Brickfield? Should I be in the car park? Well, at least if most of the track is written off, there's nothing happening here, then I can go and concentrate on the busier areas. So 1,000 sand martin apparently, so you could see them all landing on the wire. I said this, I think, last week, they would be coming back, and sure enough, here they are.
Memories thanks there as well. Yeah, I know you got it. I know.
Few swallows in there. Apparently it's a leucistic one, and that means it's got no pigmentation, so it's only white. So it'd be good luck trying to spot that. Anyway, took some video and footage and tried to get some flight shots, but you get caught up trying to do that and you're missing out on the bigger picture of trying to get some unusual things like owls and raptors. If I've got more time in the day, I'll come back for that. So just heading down to the schoolhouse now, and to see if any of the little owls showing, and this barn owl that was reportedly flying down towards Brickfields is there. And that was great. It gave me a little bonus of a couple of yawns. The little owl, that is. And so I was just trained on him, waiting for him to do something different, and I saw him lift his head up and fired away. And the heat haze was playing up with me, so I looked through hoping, and I started from the last photo, and they were all soft. I was like, no, and I was like, each one going, you know that thing when you go back through, please be one of them sharp, because I must have got about 10 or 12 shots off with him yawning the first time. And the very first millisecond, or you want to call it, opened his mouth. That one was sharp enough. That's usable. And then that was facing me, and then he turned and did a sideways one about 2 minutes later, and most of those were sharp. So that was a nice little bonus. It's always good for something unusual to happen, because I don't think I've ever got them with a mouth open like that. I took a little bit of footage. Heat haze is playing up, but I filmed it all at 60 frames per second, so I'll start by slowing it down 50%, which will remove some of the shake, and to make it more usable if I need to, I will use the image stabilizer in CapCut, but that robs you of some detail, so and makes it a little bit blurry where the sort of frame moves. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. That was a good. Now we're going to go down to the hides. Better have a drink, top up, and then get some of the, because it's quite quiet apart from buzzards and the little owl. So the hide should bulk up my list for today. Just got a distant view of a male marsh harrier. Here, and the reason I decided to film it was because I'm high up, it was low down, so it wasn't against the sky, and you had detail behind it for a change instead of a white out silhouette. So And then just as I left the car, was leaving the car park to grab a drink, some juvenile barn swallows were sitting in the trees preening. So I always take the opportunity to get a bit of video of that. The wind's quite low today, so again we try for bearded reedlings. Nothing especially happening over there, except I think there's a great black-backed gull on the fence post over there. But nothing much happening here. I'm keeping an eye out for the barn owls, but a pleasant walk. This is the perfect kind of day. You saw my umbrella earlier. I do use an umbrella a lot to keep the sun off me. I don't like using suntan lotion. I want the vitamin D. I like to sort of what they call build up a skin callus. So expose myself to the sun in small amounts until you get tanned gradually. It's been a really good session in the hide, my gosh. So I thought I'd better do this before I forget most of the stuff I've seen. So I've made a list. So coming down the path, got a little bit of footage of a reed warbler. As soon as I arrived in the hide, I could see outside there was the corn bunting was in the place it was last time, but it was too silhouette, and I thought I've got to find other things. I can't get any more footage of that. It wouldn't have been great footage anyway. Got in. As soon as I sat down, I started scanning around. I noticed a little bird off to the right, and it turns out to be a dunlin. And then somebody was mentioning spoonbills, and I said, they probably won't land in here. They'll be flying off in the distance like they were last week. And they said, no, there's one over there. And there's one over there it's still here after about an hour or so. That's been sleeping, coming out every so often to have a little preen. And I'm sat on the far left of the hide here, so I always have two windows open in case things happen, and sure enough they did. So off to my left, two corn buntings landed on the fence. One flew off and the other one I managed to get some footage of. And then a bit late, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I heard the corn buntings calling again. In fact, I heard them calling many times off to the left. So I was telling people corn buntings. Anyway, I heard them call, I looked over and I've got it on the fence. And as I zoomed in, it was a meadow pipit. So the corn bunting was somewhere else behind me. And I got a little bit of footage of a meadow pipit. And then common sandpiper was spotted. Had odds and ends over there, off to the left, in front, and then there were two flying around. So I managed a couple of flight shots. The snipe. Sorry, didn't mention the snipe. I spotted it quite early, the back of it, and then eventually it flew over into the reed. So I've got a couple of semi-decent, I've had to crop it a bit, flight shots, and then flicked to manual focus and video while it fed in the reeds and waited for it to come out, but I was quite happy feeding the reeds, couldn't get anywhere near it. So that provided better footage than I would have done just filming it from that distance. Got some black-tailed godwits in flight, flew right past the front of the hide, so I managed to get a nice background as opposed to just sky with some nice wing pattern. And then I heard some wagtails calling to my left. There have been a lot of juvenile pied wagtails, but managed this time to be yellow wagtails, juveniles, one a bit more yellow than the other. So much so that I thought the first one was a grey wagtail. It might still be, but I think they're both yellow wagtails, juvenile. I think that covers it. Trying to run I've just gone down my list here. Things I couldn't film, this marsh harrier would appear and everything would go up. A grey heron was being chased off, huge pterodactyl looking thing, chased off by some gulls. I think we better start heading back now. It's about 20 to 5. I'll give it to 1:45. I'd love to get the spoonbill in flight. Yeah, I think that covers it. I think we're up to speed with that. So, yeah, good. Excellent roundup today. A real mass. It really feels like that's more winter numbers of species rather than summer. And halfway back to the car park now. I think I briefly saw a juvenile reedling, a juvenile reedling fly across in front of me. A little bit more footage of a reed warbler, just taking advantage of that. Whenever it pops up, I'll take some footage. And finally, got some sedge warbler footage and some photos. The photos were a little higher ISO than I wanted. I was just taking pictures of it before it flew off, and I thought switch to video, and by that time it had flown off. But I got it with a nice little grasshopper type thing in its beak. Fantastic. Finally got some usable ones of those, and then it must have a nest, to the right of where I saw it, because it was going in and out of there, and it was sat outside for a minute preening, and for a minute, I don't know, it looked like it was in some sort of paralysis. It sort of stretched its beak out, it stretched its wing out and its tail feathers, and just held that position with its beak kind of slightly opening and closing. That was a bit weird. I don't know what was going on there. Maybe thirsty, maybe too hot. There was a juvenile reed bunting on the road, with some yellow wagtail. But yeah, but anyway, when I left the hides, I saw at least probably a good 5 yellow wagtails. So they're floating around that area. So Simon saw an osprey on the swale. I had a look, I thought it would have gone by now. And then as I got up here, there's a group of people with scopes. So we might be in luck, and sure enough, he's really distant. I'll put the footage up, you can see it's just a little grainy image on a post.
Yeah, it's definitely a...
He's just caught a fish and was feeding. And I wasn't going to be that douche. I almost did it. I'm going to be that douchebag. I use an American word because it's a better word, and say, oh yeah, I've seen them in Bahamas, I've seen them in St. Lucia, I've seen them in Jamaica and the Bahamas. I've said Bahamas, Costa Rica, Menorca, Majorca. I ain't going to be that guy. Agadir. Yeah, so just getting back to the car now. I'm starving. I haven't eaten for 22 hours. So I think we might have, if we get lucky, we might have a little short-eared owl or barn owl. But if it doesn't happen, we've had a great day otherwise. So just when I think I'm done, something else happens. So just one final blast here. Coming up the track, meadow pipit was out, gave me a nice little show. It was in great lighting, so I took some nice footage of it. Looking out for the bitten, but no chance today. I think we've done okay considering. What else? Came out, and I think it's a juvenile. The light morph buzzard was out on a couple of posts. So I took a picture of it flying around, taking off from posts. So tried to get some flight shots of that, because if I try and stand still and video it, it doesn't like it. So the best I can do is point the camera as soon as I see it and just fire away and hope for a flight shot. So I'm just looking at a little bird on a wire, which I'm going to look at when I let you go. So I was just about to film all that, and an egret, and I'm pretty sure it was a cattle egret, flew over in front of the cab, so I got a few seconds of that. I haven't had any cattle egret for a few weeks. So let's have a look at what that... Should we have a guess? Linnet, or I don't know. Anyway, let's get the camera. If not, if it's nothing special, then that's been a great roundup.